Thank you so much for having me here today. And I know there's a number of different sessions that you could all be at, so thank you for choosing this one. Just to introduce myself, so I'm Amy Reid. I look after innovation for Sabre Hospitality. I joined Sabre in June last year. I used to have a company called Techsembly, which was basically an e-commerce marketplace for hotels, helping hoteliers sell anything beyond the room. So that we looked at kind of particularly retail, gift cards, third-party services. So as part of that acquisition with Sabre, we integrated my business into our retail studio offering to further enhance our retailing offering out for hospitalities. And now I've moved on and I focus very much on innovation. So innovation across kind of like AI, looking at our overall payment strategy, and really understanding kind of like our kind of like product roadmap and where we're going in the future. So as a big part of innovation, as we know, is really trying to address kind of like what are the current issues in the industry, where are the gaps, and where are the market opportunities. So if we look to where we are now, we recognize that the e-commerce booking journey hasn't changed for over 30 years. You know, it's still that kind of assumption that a trigger happens, that you decide that you need a holiday, and you either decide to, it's a seasonal break, stress-related, a work trip. You book the holiday, you go online, you put in your dates, and you put in your party size. But the reality, all of your guests have changed significantly. 75% of your guests will be going to leverage going through social media to get that destination inspiration. So finding ideas and being able to replicate itineraries of things that they've seen through social. In addition, there was an Oliver Wyman study which really showed that, you know, the likes of the tools like Gemini and ChatGPT that are kind of like, you know, providing kind of like those kind of like conversational tools that provide you a full itinerary, 43% of travelers are using those. And of those that get those recommendations, over 50% go on to actually to book something. So when we look, that's kind of like our guest profile. So that's kind of like what your guests are doing. But then we look at the overall kind of like ecosystem and where we are within hospitality. And I think we all know, we talk about this a lot, we're facing data fragmentation, you know, the lack of a unified view of your guest. And we've been talking a lot over this conference, particularly about Gen AI and new technologies. But all of those technologies are only as good as the data that you feed them. And I think a lot in the industry are starting to recognize this, and I think there's a lot regarding kind of like market convergence and consolidation. We're seeing a number of different companies trying to come together to kind of unify and bring data sources together. And what's really key about that for us understanding is you have to try and stay as close to the source of truth as you possibly can. In addition, you know, having all these bolt-ons might actually further kind of complicate the industry. So it's being able to provide that seamless data, seamless guest experience. And then there's shifts in the digital landscape. And I think we touched upon this in the earlier session. But you know, if we look across kind of like all the keywords across like Google, the majority of those words are actually dominated by the likes of Booking.com and Expedia. So it makes it very hard for hoteliers to compete within search, within Google. In addition, that kind of like there's a drive to drive down pricing and also to kind of like to compete across commissions. So everybody's going on about the AI and the emerging technologies and how can we leverage these to actually kind of like support us in the journey. And I personally believe that, you know, AI will become part of everybody's everyday life. It's going to take a much more linear phased approach, and where we are within hospitality, we've been very much focused on about driving operational efficiencies and automation. But I believe the technology has ability to be so much more transformative than that. And that's where we start looking into kind of like hyper-personalization. The ability to predict what guests want before they even know what they want. But again, to achieve that, it's all about kind of like the data and understanding your guests. We all see across the industry as well, there's a number of resource shortages. You know, it's a big issue in terms of like, and being able to support hoteliers in being able to automate the manual task, a lot of those processing tasks. You know, freeing up staff time to kind of like, to be able to not replace staff, but actually to enable them to kind of have more of that human touch, which actually kind of like underpins or, you know, defines what hospitality is really about. And then I think we touched upon it earlier as well, the sustainability technology. There's the ability to be much more transparent and being able to calculate kind of like your carbon footprint and being able to be much more transparent to your consumers. So then we look at kind of like the disruption in the distribution. So, typically when a guest went on to kind of like to book somewhere, the first thing was they would either look through kind of like search, like meta search. They would go to an OTA, or they would go to a travel agent. They would go to a hotel service provider, or they would go to kind of like an airline. That's where they would start kind of like their booking journey. But now you see through kind of like social media, and we said it before, 75% of guests are being inspired through social media. So we think about this as social commerce, being able to replicate those trips and being able to book those trips that you see. And the conversational tools. So again, pushing into conversational commerce. Where is this going to look in terms of the industry going forward? Because a lot of your customers are going to be going to those, utilizing those tools and booking direct through them. So how can innovation help? So innovation and the latest technologies have the ability to touch upon the entire traveler journey. So you think when you start from it, inspiration. So we talked about getting inspiration from social media. But I don't know about you, but I have 3 teenage kids. And I'm one of those people who, I don't know where I want to go before I travel. All I care about is there's social entertainment for them, there's sporting activities, they have something to do and I'm happy. So really what I want to do is almost create or find lookalike audiences. If I stayed last time, my ideal holiday was in this hotel with this kind of like facilities, with this kind of activities and entertainment, then I want to find people like me who, where they stay is exactly where I would like to get inspiration from them. So finding kind of like those lookalike type audiences. AI has the potential to really kind of like to drive that. And then we look at kind of like planning. So it's being able to not only plan, but able to complete your itinerary. So not only just looking at the hotel and kind of like the airline, but your complete trip. And also then when you go through to kind of the booking process, being able to offer frictionless payment. Everything is automated. You kind of pull your itinerary together, press a button, everything is done. And in addition, we also talk a lot about kind of like upsells, being able to kind of provide the right recommendations. We know that when you're at that booking process, if you bombard a customer with 10s or 20 of upsells, you can often lose them throughout that journey. So finding the right upsells and serving them to the right individuals at the right time. And then there's, of course, it's a pre-travel. So the pre-travel is looking at like when you're about to set off on your travel, being able to advise you of kind of like visas or things that you need to think about before booking that travel. And in addition, being able to, I don't know if you get from kind of like all your 7 rooms and your restaurants, your confirmations that you have to kind of like click, automating all of that. And we look then going even further forward, your travel buddy. So imagine being able to have on a mobile something that serves and understands your exact requirements, your history, and provides recommendations throughout your travel. But at the same time, let's say you are delayed for a flight or something goes wrong, being able to automatically pre-book all of those and update your travel itinerary. And post-travel, again, being able to communicate with you after your stay to kind of like to initiate those next bookings. So when we look, what does the future of hospitality look like? And I think the most important thing, and we've addressed it again here, is it really goes down to about your data. Today, we're kind of like being delivered a lot in terms of historical data. And we use historical data to try and predict what the future trends are. The reality is we have to move forward with that. And that's something that AI and innovation can help us do. I believe that AI can have the ability to kind of like transform the industry in being able to bring data together in a unified fashion to provide continual learning and real actionable insights. So when we think about kind of like centralizing your data, you have them across all of those different kind of like those silos of solutions. But you want to also be able to know what are the future flight loads for your destination going forward. What are your kind of like the hotels? What are your competitors in terms of their occupancy? All of this stuff will provide you with a lot more predictive insights into kind of like how you can better serve your customers and what those rates might be, but how you can add further value. And when we look at that from the continual learning, we can then kind of like look at, how do we then solve for hyper-personalization? And that is the key where we all want to get to. Everyone talks about personalization, but really, we're not delivering it as of yet to the way we should. We're doing small steps. We're trying to understand and kind of like how our customers are interacting, but taking those learnings and providing kind of like real kind of like personalized travel. So when you turn up at a hotel, I know exactly what you want in your minibar. I know exactly kind of like the temperature of your room. I know the kind of activities I want to present to you. All of that becomes very important. And I think this is kind of like where we see the future of the industry going to. And the only way that we can bring that together is by unifying our data, keeping it as close to the source as possible, and being able to tap into data sources that today that none of us have been able to tap into. So just to kind of like to summarize, I think, you know, we talk a lot about Gen AI. We talk a lot, is it kind of like overhyped? To me, this is kind of, we've seen these cyclical trends before. I'm old enough to have gone through kind of like the dot-com boom industry, and you've seen it kind of like where there's a lot of hype, then there's a lot of disappointment, and then simply it becomes embedded into everyday's life. From a hotelier's perspective, the one thing I can say is these technologies, Gen AI is the fastest growing technology there is. It's going to continue to evolve and to grow very, very quickly. All we can do within this industry is make sure we have the right foundations in place to ensure we're ready for innovation, to ensure we're able to adapt and to take advantage of all of these models as they come about. And so going forward, I think, you know, my biggest focus within innovation is data. And that will just then enable you to achieve all the things that you wish to achieve for. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you.